Hey guys, Dan here. It's Dan Reviews It. Dan Does Disney. I have Tim on the Zoom. Hello, Tim.
Hi, everybody.
It is time once again to talk about one of these Disney nature documentaries. We're up to 1955 in our tour through Disney. And so now we've got, what, the third full-length documentary, I think?
Yes, this is the third true life adventure.
True Life Adventure, yes. And of course, now it's called Disney Nature. But back in the day, it was called True Life Adventures. They did a bunch of the shorts, and then the couple feature lengths that we've covered. So this one, 1955's The African Lion. This you can get on Disney Plus, which is where we both were able to watch it. It is available on one of the Disney Treasures DVDs, but not like the sets I have. It's a special 4-disc box set with a lot of the true life adventure stuff, some of the more documentary based stuff, but they are long out of print. So your best bet is to check it out on Disney Plus. So this made 2.1 million at the box office. I could not find any details of how much it was made for, but the other ones made about the same amount at the box office. So, they're all kind of within the same wheelhouse here. Unlike the other two, this one, there was no Oscar for, no nomination even. In fact, this year there were only 2 nominees for Best Documentary Feature. There was a Helen Keller movie that won. However, this same year, even though Walt wasn't putting out the True Life Adventure shorts anymore, he was still doing documentary shorts under the People and Places banner. And Men Against the Arctic was his entry for this year. So he did win a documentary short Oscar for that in 1955. This did win the Silver Bear Award for Best Documentary at the 6th Berlin International Film Festival, but no Oscar love for that. So as with the other ones, this was split into segments that they ran for schools and such. In the late 60s, they had 3 different groups of movies. I feel like maybe we'll have Tim, when he does the synopsis, tell us what he thinks the different shorts are that they split this into. Because there are sort of, as Tim will explain, there's sort of specific sequences in this movie that kind of lend themselves to shorts. But what else? There's not really much about the background of this that I could find. So I do know that a married couple, Alfred and Emma Melotti or Melotte, spent 3 years in Africa filming this. And unlike some of the other ones where they had 10 or 12 different people out and about in the field, this whole movie was filmed by this married couple, Alfred and Elma rather. And about 6% of what they shot was used in the film. And these guys were also used for one of the early Walt shorts called Seal Island in 1948, one of the very first of the True Life adventures. So he had used them before. Other than that, I have a bit about the rhino being stuck in the mud, which I'm sure Tim will talk about. The filming team rescued the animal after they were done filming, but then it charged at them after being freed. I don't know if there were any serious injuries sustained by that, but he didn't like that. And then other than that, part of this was aired in 1958 as part of a TV show called His Majesty King of the Beasts. And then also the Jungle Cruise ride. Tim, have you been on that?
I have.
So apparently that was mostly based on what we see here in this movie.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. And of course, there is an actual Jungle Cruise movie coming out. It was supposed to be this summer with Emily Blunt and The Rock. So I guess that'll be out probably in 2021 at this point. But yeah, this is what most of Jungle Cruise was based on. So that's really all I have for the little factoids about this one, Tim.
I have a little bit more about Elma and Alfred.
Oh, okay. Tell me about them.
Yeah. So you're right that they actually won 6 Oscars with Disney.
Okay.
And the first one was Seal Island, and Walt just gave him money and was like, "Hey, just go and film in I guess it was a Alaskan island, I guess Seal Island is, and it was just like go film, and they won an Oscar for it. It was, I think it was one of their shorts, and then they won 5 other ones: Beaver Valley, Alaskan Eskimo, which I think was part of the People and Places, Bear Country, which was the same year, I think, one of the earlier
The
two
first
ones.
one. Yeah, I think that was the same year that the first feature was out.
Nature's Half Acre and Waterbird. So I think those are all shorts. So they won 6 Oscars for Disney. And then
it's interesting that their work was nominated and won so many Oscars for the shorts category, but then their feature length didn't even get nominated. That's very odd.
Yeah. And then they passed away in 1989 in April, and they passed away 5 days apart from each other.
Wow. Okay. Well, we hear of that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they lived a while then. Good for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And apparently, like they didn't like Walt wasn't like super like stringent of what they were doing in Seal Island or anything like that. They were like, just go film. And I think that was the same thing with this. He was just like, go film in Africa, and 30 months they were out there filming.
It seems to me that he was so entrenched with the animated films, and then of course in the early 50s, you and I know he did all those British films, you know, Rob Roy and stuff. I think he was so invested in that stuff that, you know, he was good at producing the documentaries, but basically he was just kind of hands off and said, go do what you're good at. And you know, they came back with the finished product. And obviously, you know, look, Walt, I think, knew what he was doing in most of these aspects, and the proof is in the pudding with all these Oscar wins for the shorts and the features.
Yeah. So the African Lion, like we said, it was shot over a 30-month period in Kenya, Tanganyika, and Uganda. And it focuses on the life of the lion within the complexity of the African ecosystem. From wildebeests to zebras to giraffes and hippos to elephants and baboons, they all live in the lion's domain on the African plain. And that's basically the synopsis. Dan will probably tell you that he doesn't like the title of the African lion.
Yes. Why don't I?
Because it's not about African lions. It should be called the African plain.
Correct.
And
Animals of Africa. It should be
Animals of Africa. I think the reason they did that is because in the 1950s, like, I don't know how many, like, there might be zoos and stuff, but like the focus of the lion and be like, oh man, the African lion. I think that was like drawing people to movie theaters. Like,
I'm sure in 1955 it was a big deal. And like we've talked about, I mean, you know, the National Geographic Channel did not exist. I mean, TV was in its infancy, so a lot of people's first exposure to all of this stuff was through these Disney true life adventures. So I get it, but there's so much more here than just the lion. And I would say most of my favorite parts didn't include the lion.
Yeah.
So,
but they did do a smart thing. I would say that this movie was the most cohesive storytelling of the Disney's True Life Adventures so far.
I agree with that.
I felt like at the end of the Vanishing Prairie, they kind of got into this groove of, it was the ground, no, it was the prairie dogs. It was the prairie dogs, and it was like, here are the prairie dogs, here are some other animals and how they interact with the prairie dogs. Here's some more stuff about the prairie dogs, and here are some more animals that are predators or something of the prairie dogs. And it was kind of all geared around the prairie dogs, where this one is all kind of geared around the African lion. And even if you're talking about a different animal, the narrator somehow brings back the African lion, like, oh yeah, the giraffes, they're in the domain of the African lion. They keep saying either the domain of the African lion or the kingdom of the lion or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. They weave it in.
they weave it in. So I felt like that was very cohesive in the storytelling. So there's a lot of animals that we talk about. It starts off with a bunch of animals that graze the plains of Africa and that are part of the food chain that is the lions. That we have wildebeests, dik-diks, impalas, gazelles, warthogs, zebras, and they kind of just mention them a little bit. And a lot of them have horns, and they show off the different horns of these animals. Oh, I forgot. It starts with our favorite, the magic paintbrush.
All the magic paintbrushes, Tim.
It paints Africa on the map, and they explain how it was called the Dark Continent for a really long time, because it has a lot of barriers that people have to get through. Desert on the north, the jungle on the west coast, swamps on the east.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And then like once you get to the middle, that's the African plain. It's a lot of grazing and some forest, and you have a couple mountains. Most of this takes place in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro. We talked about the giraffes for a little bit. We talked about rhinos for a little bit. There are some great shots of just lions just strolling past all these grazing animals, and they don't care, and somehow they know when that lion's about to strike. But it's some amazing shots here of some pans of just this lion strolling through the plains there, and all these wildebeests around.
Yeah, a lot of really great things that were captured here in this one.
And you said how much was used? 6%?
Only 6% of what was shot, yeah.
Well, when they're filming over 30 months, that's a lot of film.
It's a lot of film. I can't deny that, but yeah, just I'm sure there's a lot of like boring stuff, but yeah, I mean they definitely got some interesting shots for sure.
So then we get a little chunk of lions here. We talk about the prides, how they tend to be lazy animals and they have lazy routines. We see some lion cubs. They're very cute. Apparently, lion cubs they'll feed on any lioness, and they don't really care if it's their mother or not. And the mother doesn't really care. That's kind of like, oh, it's feeding time.
It's a free for all.
Yeah, it was a little free for all. They're very territorial of their pride, and they have this female lioness that's not part of their pride try to like walk through, and there was like this whole lion fight. And then talk about the African elephants for a little bit. They're in herds. African elephants can weigh up to 6 to 8 tons. However, when they're babies, they're about 200 pounds. And we had some baby elephants here, and they were very cute.
This was my favorite part, Tim, of the whole film.
Your favorite part was
yes,
that
I love the elephants.
Yep.
I loved all of the information we got about them. I mean, I could not believe like how much water they take in a day. I mean, how they clean themselves and then they have trouble getting up the hill because they're all muddy. And this was by far for me the best part. Yeah,
and that baby elephant that they kept showing was very cute. He was just struggling to walk through the water. He was struggling to do a lot of things, and his ears flopping all around, his trunk flopping all around. He was very cute, and it was very, very informational. I mean, a lot of this was informational, but I would agree that the elephants was probably one of my favorite parts. I would say that was probably one of the documentary sections. It was split up.
That was correct. It was called Elephants and Hippos in Africa. So they lumped it in with the next segment in the movie, the hippo part. Yeah.
And then another one would be just lions, I would imagine.
The African lion and his realm. So I guess that's sort of taking all the lion stuff and putting it together, maybe. And then the third one you'll talk about here in a minute, but that's birds, baboons, and other animals.
I would have just said baboons.
There's not really too many birds in this movie, especially compared to some of the other things we've seen. But
like Dan said, the next thing was hippos. They have some amazing underwater shots of these hippos.
Yeah.
There was hippos, alligators, some fish, and it was some underwater shots that were not as great as 20,000 Leagues on the Sea, but it was better than some of that the underwater alligator they had in Davy Crockett.
Yeah. Yeah, you could really tell that they were making use of the techniques they discovered in 20,000 Leagues, because they would have been filming that maybe like 2 years before this.
Yeah. But not as good, but definitely the best underwater stuff that we've seen besides
Yeah.
20,000.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have baboons. They have a rock fortress that the lions just kind of ignore them because the baboons know their rock fortress pretty well. And then we see baby baboons. I love monkeys. Baby monkeys are really cute. Baby baboons were very cute. Then we get to birds. Ostrich can run up to 40 miles an hour. What else we got? Oh, so the next section was part of the birds was a courser bird, a Temenix courser bird. He does a little funny dance walk thing, and they put that in for the humor. I thought
Yeah,
it was
good
okay.
humor. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
all right.
I feel like they do that at least once for each of these so far. That the first one was the god awful.
That was the worst.
Yes, and then the last one was kind of like it was another bird one. They were like made funny noises and they kind of remixed it a little bit. So they were doing, I forget what bird it was, like maybe a grouse or something like that.
Yeah.
So then they kind of talk about how Africa's in 2 seasons, the wet season and the dry season. The wet season's good, the dry season's bad. The wet season, talk about leopards, cheetahs, lioness, and we actually see some carnage at this point. This is the first time we see on-screen carnage of things that are not snakes or spiders and creepy crawly and things. So we have a leopard. He takes down a young wildebeest from a tree, and I mean, all 3 of these are kind of graphic and
it's gory.
It's gory and kind of impressive that they got these shots.
Yeah. Disturbing though, a little bit.
It's very disturbing. The leopard then drags the wildebeest up into a tree so the scavengers won't get it, which is kind of smart. The cheetah, which runs up to 80 miles per hour, takes down a gazelle. That one's not that graphic because he's running so fast. There's so much dust that like you kind of can't really see it. But then but then the dust clears and then you see the aftermath. The lioness takes down a full-size wildebeest.
I hate that part. Oh my god.
They share with the pride, but then also some of the lioness wants to kind of drag it off for her own cubs. And then you have these scavengers. There's jackals, hyenas, and vultures, and they take most of it. And then there's slim leftovers. But there's so many of these shots of lions just kind of like dragging pieces of dead animals.
It's a little extreme.
It's a little extreme. It's pretty crap. You also have a lioness taking down an impala. And then we get into the drought season, and we have elephants digging wells because they remember where the dried up riverbeds are. Mm-hmm. We have the trapped rhino in the muddy water hole. He's trapped and he's trying to get out, and no one really cares. All these other animals kind of investigate, but then they're like, whatever. And it was nice for the filmmakers to free him.
Yeah, after the fact, that was nice.
Yeah. We have dust storms, which cause migrations, and it's this really long animal train. Lions walking right next to wildebeest because they're all looking for water, and
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Then we have a locust plague eating grass. We have tropical rains that bring new life. And I feel like that's kind of the end.
Yeah, that is everything that happens in the African lion. So before we talk about the movie itself, the dude who does the narration, we haven't really touched much on him in these last couple ones.
Oh
His
yeah,
name
it's
Winston
Winston
Hibbler.
Hilbert. Yeah,
So first,
we talked about him a little bit in the last one. I mentioned how he was part of the screenwriters of Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland.
yes, all of that. Did you know that he is from Harrisburg, PA? Did we talk about that before?
We did not talk about that.
Okay, I was going to say I didn't think I remembered hearing that, but yes, he is from good old Harrisburg, PA, which is where I live. Tim used to live right near here and work here, and yeah. So this dude, he's not part of the Disney Legend camp, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he got awarded Disney Legend status because right, he wrote all the early '50s animated series, but he narrates almost all of these true life adventures all the way back to Seal Island, which we were mentioned earlier with the married couple doing it. So he did a bunch of the shorts, a bunch of the features, and not only that, his one directing credit is Men Against the Arctic, which is the short that won the best short this particular year at the Oscars. So his only thing he ever directed, he got an Oscar for. So
Oh.
dude's pretty good with the Walt Disney stuff.
Yeah, I thought
good old Harrisburg.
I thought his narration was good as always. There's always some stuff that I'm just like, I roll my eyes at, but that's.
I think okay. So I think there was
2020 and not 1950s.
Yes, so you got to give a little bit of credit there, but I also think it was dialed down for this, as opposed to the two previous ones we saw. I think some of the jokiness, sort of. I mean, this was, I think, I would say the most serious of all three of them.
Yeah,
certainly of the first one, but I think even the second one, it even dials down a little bit of the comedy routines. I mean, like you said, there was kind of one where it's like, all right, this is their joke moment of the movie. But I thought the music here lined up a lot better with the shots and didn't do as much of the goofy stuff that the other two did, except for that one scene.
Yeah, I mean, and to its credit, that bird definitely walks weird.
Yeah, he does walk funny. So I mean, why not sort of at least point it out, with some music cues. So I appreciated that about it. And the other thing, I guess, and we talked a little bit about some of the staging of the last movie, but apparently there was no, staged shots here. Everything that the cameras got was real deal. They didn't plant anything. They didn't stage anything. Everything was 100% authentic as far as I could figure out from this movie. So I think that is a step above some of the other ones too. Personally, for me, and we'll get to grades later, but this is, of the three we've seen, my favorite. I think it was the most engaging. And I mean, look, I do like cats, so seeing the lions, I like that part, and I loved the elephants. The elephants were amazing. The only thing I really didn't like was it's definitely too graphic with the murdering and the feeding and some of those shots towards the end.
Yeah, I felt like the second one kind of touched on it a little bit with the mountain lion and it's eating its cubs, but you didn't see the death on screen.
No, this was like
you kind of,
yeah, this was visceral for sure.
And that's what we talked about a little bit in the last one, is that when it's a snake or something like that, you don't really care because it's a snake,
right?
Or if it's a wasp killing a spider from the first one, you're like, okay, well, I'm not a big fan of spiders.
What if it's a giraffe, Tim?
But when it's a giraffe, you don't see the giraffe getting taken out, but you definitely see dead giraffes.
You definitely see the aftermath.
And they're cute animals.
Yeah,
It's different, and it's a little hypocritical for me to say that, but it that's
it's true though.
it's true.
Yeah. So I mean that I just I can't imagine. I mean, it's rated G, obviously, like all these are, but like I just I know it's nature, but I'm a little hard pressed to think of parents going to take their kids to a movie in 1955 and oh, it'll be a movie where we're going to learn about animals, and then they like learn about all this murder and look, I get it, it's real life and that's what happens, so I'll give them credit for that, but it just seems in a Disney movie to be a little extreme with some of these shots. They're great shots,
Yeah.
but I was shocked.
I think if they had taken out like the leopard taking down the wildebeest, it was kind of far away. You didn't really see much. Like it was kind of blocked by a tree. The cheetah, it was kind of dusty. But as soon as you got to the lioness taking down some stuff, and then it was like after the takedown, it was just like a head with like just entrails, and
It was really extreme and gross.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that definitely affects my grade a little bit because I think it's too much for children to really be able to handle. But I did think this was the most interesting of all three. What do you think about um, this movie kind of on the whole as compared to the other two?
Well, my grading for the last two, I gave an A minus for the first one, an A to the second one. I'd say this is probably very similar that range. It is the most cohesive storytelling thus far. It is
Yeah,
very
I agree with
compelling.
that too.
It does get a little graphic. I am surprised that there isn't a parental warning in the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, yeah, you would think, especially now in 2020, that everybody's so sort of on edge about what's being shown. And Disney obviously put up some warnings for some of the more racially insensitive stuff that they had in some of the earlier films. I think this could go with a little warning that, like, hey, yes, it's rated G, but just so you know, like, there's some very intense scenes, whatever. I don't know how they would say it, but yeah.
Animal violence.
Right. Yes. Yes. Animal violence. Yeah. I agree. I don't know. But it does happen in nature, so I can't fault it for that. But like, if this was released now with a G rating, I would be floored.
Yeah.
I know a lot of I think all the Disney nature documentaries are rated G, and they show some things, but not like this.
No.
No.
Do you want to talk about editing?
Sure.
Because the last
what
one,
great editing.
Yeah, the last one you felt like there was a couple scenes where it was choppy editing, and I agree with you. I felt like there wasn't really any choppy editing in this. They got great footage, and the last one I feel like we had some choppy editing because they were trying to get the action or something like that where like have it right, and they were just like, okay, we're just going to chop it together. This one, they had some panning shots to get animal movement. Even in one of the takedowns, they had like this kind of like the camera just kept panning and moving and following action. They got some really great footage.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the difference between cobbling together footage from 10 different camera people, because you're going to get, obviously, each camera person is going to look for something different in a shot or whatever. But this married couple had been working together on nature stuff for almost a decade at this point professionally. And I mean, it really shows what talent they had behind the camera. I mean, the ones that they've done, like you said earlier, were all pretty much shorts. So you and I haven't really seen them yet.
No.
This is the first thing we've seen of their stuff. But my God, I mean, yeah, they get so many great shots here that it's really hard to be bored with or look away from. And like you said, it's all very cohesive. So yes, the editing here is another standout for this.
Yeah. Like even the opening shot of Mount Kilimanjaro in the background, where it's kind of like blending into the
It looks
horizon.
like painting.
Yes.
I thought they were still doing the paintbrush gag, and then I was like, wait a second, no, I think that's a real thing. And then they panned down, and it was. But yeah, I mean, it looked so picturesque or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. All right, well, anything else before we wrap? We'll give our official grades here. I think I was a little lower on each of the other two movies than you. I think I was like B plus A minus, right?
No.
Or did I agree with you?
You gave the first one an A. I gave it
Oh,
an A minus. We talked about the second one, and you're like, "Wait, I gave the first one an A. What was I on?"
Yeah. Okay. Listen, that first one, I that was a mistake. Okay. Look, we all make mistakes. That was one of mine.
We
Looking back, that movie is not an A, clearly. But now this, I think it's definitely graphic, probably too much so, especially for young children. But I mean, I think this if somebody told me they thought this was an A plus, I don't even think I would fight. I think I'm gonna give it an A, but it's definitely the best for me of the three.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on par with grade wise of the last one, which was an A. I'm going to give this one an A as well. I would say this one is a slightly better movie, but not quite A plus.
I can't believe though it didn't even get a nomination when all these other nature documentaries and shorts got the actual award, not just the nomination. I don't know what this Helen Keller movie is that won, but like, give this thing at least a nomination. Why do they only have 2 nominees this year for best doc? It seems very low.
It is weird, but
Yeah.
it would be the first time that we had a weird number of nominations for stuff.
No, remember when the Muppet song came out, Muppet or the Man, and there was only 2 best song nominations that year?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so weird.
Muppet or Man won. It gave Brett McKenzie an Oscar win.
Yeah. What did it beat? Rio or something?
I don't even know.
Yeah, it beat one of the, and it's like, you're gonna tell me nobody else had original music this year? Like, it just seems silly.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
The animation feature one year, I think it was only 3 nominations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know why they do that. It makes me very angry. There's no reason they should not have gotten a nomination.
No.
So,
I don't know what the rules were in 1955.
That's true.
But the rules now, I feel like it's like there has to be a certain amount of movies that fit this category, and that's what they base their nominations on. That's how they get the number. But even with that, like the songs, you're telling me that there's not enough songs to make it 3 nominations? Like,
yeah, that was real stupid. And not only that, I think, I'm a big Pearl Jam fan. I think that was the year Into the Wild came out, or some album that Eddie Vedder did part of the soundtrack for. And I was like, dude, you could nominate Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. Like, what are we doing? And they still did. So anyway, that's clearly off topic. But I just think it's weird that this one didn't even get a nomination.
Maybe
but yeah,
they felt comfortable giving Disney 2 nominations.
No, because I think that first year of Vanishing Prairie, I think, didn't he win the feature and the short that year? Or not the Vanishing Prairie, whatever the first one was.
I don't know.
I don't know either anymore. But I'm with you. I think it's A minus, A, and A for these movies now. I don't know where my head was at that first week.
Well, but it was the first time you saw it. The first time you saw a True Adventure. You didn't realize how good these things could be.
You're right. I thought that was like the pinnacle.
Yeah, it's like someone doing a taste test, and you have the first one, and you're like, oh, this is a 10, and then you're like, oh wait, I went too high with my grip.
And that's always a mistake. In retrospect, we always have to look back at like, okay, well, maybe I was too easy on that because I was so excited. But yeah, I think this one is the best of the 3. I agree, it's not quite an A plus, and maybe that's because of the gruesome murder scenes. But I think cinematography wise, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that's gonna do it for Dan Does Disney. We have two more next that are not part of the Disney Plus lineup. We agreed it was what, the Great Locomotive Chase is next, or is it the
That's
Littlest
that's
Outlaw?
the one. The Little Outlaw, I think was.
All right, I think that's correct. Let me look here. Um, so it's going to be the Littlest Outlaw next, then the Great Locomotive Chase, and then we have our next Davy Crockett movie,
Oh yeah, and
which is on Disney Plus. Davy Crockett and the River Pirates. Which now
isn't
that we know, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
isn't Fess Parker in one of these two movies that I'm about to watch? I
Yes,
think.
Fess Parker is in the Locomotive Chase, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, but I was going to say, now that we know that the Davy Crockett ones are edited versions of the Disneyland show, I'm going to watch those in full before I watch the movie that got released and see what is changed. Because I didn't get to do that on the last one. And then after that, the next documentary, Secrets of Life, it's called. So we've got quite the stack of 1956 movies. Well, I guess the next one, Littlest Outlaw, is still in 55. And then the few after that is 56. So,
Man, Disney's
right.
just turning these things out.
Yeah, cranking them the heck out. That's for sure. All right. Well, Tim, thank you for joining. And we'll see everybody next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.